Monday means, among other things, we bring in Landon Aydlett from the National Weather Service to give us a rundown, explain some of the science, even rationalize about some of the logic of what happens with the weather. We talk about a whole bunch of things, but Landon's expertise and his attitude are what make the show like so awesome. So Landon joins us right now in the KUM News Zoom room from his friendly confines over there in Tejan at the National Weather Service Guam installation. So Landon, half a day and good morning as always, my friend.
Up today, good morning, and happy October. It's the second
Yes.
of the Burr months.
Happy Rocktober. You got to throw up the whole.
Yes.
This is the month where we celebrate all things rock, and then of course you got that Halloween thing at the end of the month. But
Yes, which is just a pit stop for till Christmas. So yeah, I'm still behind the curve with my Christmas decorations. I have not even started yet. So one of these days.
Well, you know what? Like, I'm sure you and your colleagues, like not just on Guam, not just in the U.S., but all over the world, are really paying intimate attention. I want to start with Hurricane Ian making somewhat landfall in the state of Florida. I mean, the images that you're seeing on network TV really, really dramatic, really, really scary. And unfortunately, really, really familiar to those of us here in the islands who know what that's like. So first of all, I want to talk about safety and everything, because you see at the top of your screen, you've got Jacksonville up there. I know you've got family in Jayville and everything, but how are they doing first and foremost?
Yeah, the family is doing fine. And my parents in Jacksonville, they were a little bit in a panic because they were put under evacuation orders in their area of Jacksonville. They live just off of the St. Johns River, which snakes right down through Jacksonville and then down into northern central Florida. So if the storm is in the right angle, the winds can thrust a lot of water into the St. Johns River, and it surges down into the St. Johns. And then, of course, in Doctors Lake, where my parents live, they're right on the lake. And so Hurricane Matthew a couple of years ago brought the water right up to my parents' back patio, which was a pretty harrowing situation for them. But luckily, this time was not quite as bad. The storm continued across the state. It went farther out to ocean, so that meant the strongest winds and the strongest surge potential was more offshore than if it tracked closer to the coastal area. So you said it tracked way out here and then made a second landfall near Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, and then it made a pass close to my family in North Carolina. Of course, I used to live in Raleigh right up here. Yeah, my dad got just over 7 inches of rainfall in one day over here in Elizabeth City. So they had quite a soaking over there. And of course, Elizabeth City, Weeksville area, if anybody's familiar with coastal North Carolina, it's very flat, it's very coastal, and it's a lot of swampland. So you get a half inch of rain in a short period of time, and many roads and areas, fields, farmland will be submerged for a period of time. And so 7 inches of rain in a single day, that's a lot for over there. But this thing tracked up over Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area, and then up through the triad of Greensboro, and then up into Virginia, where it later dissipated. So the effects of that hurricane were felt all across the Carolinas into Virginia, where there was even flooding and some damage from wind over there. But really the brunt of it was right there in the Fort Myers area. Tampa really dodged the bullet because they were originally tracking it to be somewhere near Tampa, but that track started going more right of forecast, which was great for Tampa. If you see any pictures of Tampa, the water was drained out of Tampa Bay because of those winds circulating around that typhoon, but it was thrust up into the Fort Myers and Naples area, where they had some catastrophic storm surge in that area, along with the Category 4 winds.
Can I ask a question real quick? Because those of us here on the island, of course, Guam is only 30 miles long by 7 miles wide. So when we tend to get really large super typhoons, typically the eye is actually bigger than the island itself. And so, we have these two passages of one eye wall and then the other eye wall, right? Hurricane Ian, according to your charts and everything, cut right across the state. And Florida is interesting because, you've got huge lakes. You've got marshlands. I believe that, I believe the lake that your cursor is over right now, is that Lake Osceola?
Oh my gosh. It's either Osceola or Kissimmee.
Yeah, but that is, that's a huge body of water in this state, down there. That's, several hundred miles wide. And it's amazing to think that a weather formation in a system could actually go across and make landfill and still have that much strength and then go out to sea again.
That's correct. And of course, it was dealing with a lot of moisture, a lot of fuel, because you have the very warm waters of the Gulf. And then it it held its act together for the best part, and then it got right up into the Atlantic. And you have the Gulf Stream, which is a warm current of water that flows up into the Atlantic from the Caribbean area through the Bahamas. But you notice the peak winds, this maximum sustained winds right at landfall were right about 155 miles per hour. That's a high end category 4, just shy of category 5. But by the time it came out the other side of Florida, the winds were down to 65 miles per hour. So it went from a category 4 storm to a tropical storm intense system. And then it became a typhoon, a hurricane once it got back over the Atlantic. So the land did take a devastating blow to the hurricane itself. And that's typically what we see. If it didn't make it back into the Atlantic, it would have continued weakening up into the land areas. But once it made that passage over Florida into the open waters and the warmer waters of the Gulf Stream, that had more fuel potential and it intensified again.
So it is kind of a very, very weird coinky-dink about, storms of this magnitude that to actually weaken the weather system, they've got to go over landfall. The irony being, that's where obviously people and animals and businesses and, and societies congregate over the land. So, I mean, it's a really weird catch-22.
Yep. And so we always have to watch out for that and communicate that effectively. And the biggest thing with the folks in Florida was that initial track showing a passage somewhere near Tampa, but each subsequent forecast track went a little bit right of the previous track. So that landfall eventually was Fort Myers area. When it comes to the small islands over here in the Western North Pacific, a deviation of 20 miles may mean you get a direct hit or you get missed completely. And so that's where we had to communicate versus a long exposed coastal area. We're just little small points in the ocean.
I was going to say, can you put into some sort of historical context, for local purposes, right? I know the last few storms that we've had to endure maybe over the last 8, 9, 10 years is we've been very, very spared because maybe 3-4 days out, you can see the weather system coming towards us. And, you folks over there at the NWS will say, there is a storm coming. Everybody needs to prepare. This one looks like it could be a little bit dangerous. And then what causes, storms to kind of have that hockey stick effect and kind of spike upwards? Why do storms deviate from the tracks and all of a sudden have very erratic?
Yeah, that happens. And so we're always looking at the steering currents. Where are the lower and mid-level winds doing? Because we don't want any curveballs. That sometimes you might see a storm. Let me turn my camera around. You'll see a storm and it has a sharp elbow in its track. And that could be from a storm or a funnel system that coming across the states. A lot of times we'll have a hurricane coming towards the Carolina coast and it may jut all of a sudden to the east or the northeast. And that's because we're looking at a frontal system that may be coming across the United States. And that's always a saving grace for a lot of people on the coast if that's the scenario. This was not the case so much in this situation. And so it was a very bad storm for them. We look for those trends and tendencies over here in the Western North Pacific. But of course, we're not going to see those frontal boundaries come down here in the tropics. So we're going to see that gradual westward motion, and then it starts gaining latitude as it moves towards the west-northwest, and then makes that recurvature into the North Pacific. And that's typical of most of our typhoon tracks here in the Western North Pacific. And so what is out there right now? Well, the good news is we are not tracking anything out there. It is tropically inactive.
And ironically, there's something way north of us called Roki.
Yeah, that's correct, Roki. And that's the U.S. submitted name to the Typhoon Committee. So that was, I think it's from the island of Guam, actually. But that is the U.S. delegation's name to the Typhoon Committee list of tropical cyclones. And so here we are, represented on the international stage. But yeah, there is nothing active right now, no suspect areas in the region. So that is the good news. And of course, that really much, it's typical of a La Nina season. And so here we are near peak season for tropical cyclones, and it is quiet out there. But elsewhere in the weather, you might have woken up overnight from some thunder and lightning and maybe some heavy showers. This was the radar very early this morning. I'm going to do an extended loop showing what we had out there. It has since cleared out nicely outside. You notice the sunny, fair skies out there. But this morning was a different story. We had some strong showers and thunderstorms with gusty winds make its approach toward the island this morning. That has since cleared out, but we are looking at periods of scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms to continue at least through Tuesday night. And so we have some more activity starting to pop up on the east. That's all going to generally trend this way. It's part of a trade wind surface trough that's pushing through. So trade winds are large and in charge across the region at the moment, and that will continue through the week with a little bit of upper atmospheric support that will help induce some of the heavier showers and brief periods of thunderstorms. But they'll be pulsing up and down the next couple of days. It's not going to be a complete washout or all-day event. This is just going to be more episodic. You have a wet couple hours, maybe some passing showers and thunderstorms, and then it's going to stabilize and dry out. And that's where we are right now this afternoon. It's significantly dried out, and that trend is continuing across the CNMI as we speak. So we'll probably see some more showers start building in later today. So watch out for those.
Mm-hmm. So, Landon, typically what do meteorologists like yourself do when conditions are, like, for lack of a better term, dead, right? There's nothing really going on in the region. You don't project anything for the next few days and everything like that. It's actually like quite good and everything. So what do you actually work on when there's no real cause for concern for, anything you have to keep your eye on top of?
Oh, there is an endless supply of things to work on. We're coming up at the end of the fiscal or we just ended the fiscal year, but now we're starting to end
so you're doing budgets.
The outreach year. So I have a lot of reporting and technical stuff that I have to be updating online with the National Weather Service at the agency level. Outreach, I'm logging up all the outreach events, workshops, meetings and stuff. I'm still putting plans together for a week-long trip to the CNMI next week. I'll be up in Saipan running some workshops and meetings up there with the Homeland Security Office, including another media and communications workshop with the Saipan media. So I look forward to getting up there, plus meet some of the government leaders and Homeland Security staff, and just do overall training in support of the National Preparedness Month, which was September. But it was just so busy last month that I did not get up to the CNMI. So I am looking forward to getting up there. But you look at my desk and it's papers and documents and folders that I have to go through and sort stuff. And I'm also writing many articles and newsletters.
A messy desk is a productive desk, my friend.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'd rather be not so messy, but it is what it is.
Okay, now real quick, I know, again, Guam's size, we're not the biggest island in the world. We got a population of around 160,000. We've obviously, you were just talking about the end of the fiscal year. We've obviously got budgetary concerns. We're all the way out here. But your facilities out there and your team and the equipment that you have and everything, you guys take on a lot and you're responsible for a lot. How equipped is the National Weather Service office on Guam relative to like some comparable market sizes like in the States? I mean, you guys have a fantastically sophisticated operation up there.
Well, that's the good thing about the National Weather Service. We are, again, just one of 122 weather forecast offices in the United States Weather Service. And every forecast office are equally equipped. So we have the same workstations, the same Windows network. We have the same technology and tools and capabilities. And plus, we have some additional capabilities, like we have a big satellite dish in the back that's pulling in data from the Japanese HIMARS satellite. Plus, we track all the polar orbiters that come over our airspace. So we have all that stuff coming directly into our office, whereas other field offices may not get that. And so we do have some extra capabilities because of our location on the other side of the globe from the west of the agency. But we are stacked and stocked up with the network, the software, the capabilities of New York City Weather Office or Los Angeles. So nice. We are in good hands.
See, and that's the one thing I love, because some people would just say, okay, they take kind of like the electoral college approach. Okay, we're just going to give Guam a certain amount of resources based on market size. But, given our importance, given our sophistication, given the fact that we've got a lot of technical resources, people like yourself, again, out here and everything like that, you get the right tools and the right people, and you're going to do some really, really good work. So that's what we have here. And we are eternally grateful that we've got you as a resource.
And when things don't work well, we squeak, and they hear it in Washington. So we make sure we squeak when things are not optimal.
Well, there is that A word, accountability and everything, but we won't get into that. But tell you what, man, Landon, we appreciate it each and every Monday when you come on, when you bring guests, when you give us, global perspective, regional perspective, international perspective, and everything. It helps us understand the weather so much more. So we always appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay in contact with us. Again, it's going to be a slow week weather-wise, but, stay up to date.
Right, and most importantly, your family's okay in Jacksonville. So Jacksonville had 2 scares this week, everybody. So the
Yes.
Hurricane Ian was passing through. Fortunately, everybody in Jacksonville is okay. Unfortunately, the Jaguars didn't do so well today in the NFL, but that's a completely different interview. So Landon, we'll see you next week, man.
Have a great day.